Hey guys, it is Ian here, and this is my lab video for INTC 2030 Lab 8. Here on the screen I have the tasks we're going to be performing. We're going to explain the subsystems to be used in the SQL environment. Before I read these off, I'll give you a quick idea of what we're doing in the lab. So for the lab, we have an SQL server running on a network, and we are going to be wanting to monitor the performance of the SQL server. Now for the second bullet point, it is explain why I chose the counters I did that are going to be in the data collectors. I'm going to demonstrate creating a data collector set for the selected counters, and then I'll schedule it to run. Then I'm going to capture some data and explain what happened to that data. Alright, so I'm logged in as the administrator on the SQL server. Open up the server manager, expand the diagnostics. I'm going to highlight the reliability and performance monitors. Right here I'm going to expand this a little bit. Here it shows you four basically graphs, and it kind of shows you the resource overview. The first one's the CPU. That's how much the actual CPU is running and what's being run on it. Next one is the actual physical hard disk. That's what's being read and write to. There's the network, which is any traffic that's being sent across the network. And we have on the right the memory. That's the memory that's being used. If you actually click on it, it shows you below what's being used. So most of the system is using the actual hard disk right now. There's no really services that are running on it. So we're going to expand that out a little bit. Expand the data collector sets out, and under user define we're going to right click, click new, click data collector set. We're going to name this one lab 8 collectors. I'm going to create this manually, click next. And now we're going to create performance counters because we're wanting to monitor the performance of the SQL server. Click next. Now the performance counters, we're going to add those. It shows you the available counters. Now for an SQL server, in my opinion, what we're going to need to be looking at is the processor performance, the physical disk, and the memory. So we're going to expand the memory. It shows you all the things that you can collect part of the memory. Now in my opinion, the committed bytes in use is very important. It shows you how much of the memory is being committed to the task at hand. If you have a lot of committed bytes in use and it's getting to a point where you're starting to run out, you should look into adding more RAM, or if it becomes more efficient, actually adding a new server. So we'll go ahead and highlight that, and we're going to click add. We're going to go to the physical disk, expand that out. Now we're going to highlight the disk read time. We're going to add that. Now the disk read time, if you're having a extremely high disk read time, then chances are you're going to need to either look and see maybe your disk is failing, or you need a faster disk that clocks higher, or as a load balancing thing to do, you could add more physical disks. Okay, so we're going to go down a little bit. So scroll up right here. I think this one's pretty important too. The bytes per second that's being written. A disk write bytes per second shows what's being written to the disk at how long. That's also important. Say if you're getting a red performance on the disk write, that's you have too many users trying to write to the disk. You have to look at load balancing ideas. We're going to go below, go to the processor performance. Expand the processor. Go down. Now for the processor idle time, if the processor is idling too much, that means it's not being used much. which is an inefficient use of resources. So maybe look at finding a way you could stop it from idling. And we're going to go glow. And also under the server counter, we're going to take the bytes received and we're going to add that over. Now that's important because if you have a server that you're running a particular service off of, such as a SQL server where you have people connecting and writing to it, say you were to be experiencing an extremely large, unusual number of bytes received a second, that could be a red flag to a distributed denial service attack on your server. So we'll add those counters. We'll go ahead and click OK. And it shows you the name of the performance counters. Go ahead and click Finish. And now to schedule a time for those collectors to run, we're going to right click and we're going to go to the properties, and under the schedule we're going to schedule a time. Now it's pretty important that you schedule your collectors to run at peak hours. If you're monitoring the performance of your server when it's not being used, it's pretty pointless. So go ahead and click add. Beginning date, you can start at the 5th. It'll also be the 5th. And then the start time we'll do about 1 p.m. Be set for 1 p.m. That seems about a pretty active hour. And we're going to schedule it to run Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Click OK. And then click apply and OK. Now we're going to click the stop condition. Overall duration, we're going to put it for 1 hour. For the overall duration, we're going to put it for 1 hour. This is just for the test of this lab. Click apply and then OK. Now that we have our data collector set, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start it, and then I'm going to generate some actual traffic, and then we're going to look at the performance counter and what it said happened. So start it, you can go ahead and hit the green arrow at the top, says start the data collector. Now you can close out of the data collector set. Now just a little quick touch of the high spots. While you're a network administrator, it's important that you monitor the state of the services that are running on the server, especially of this SQL server, the state of the databases. You always want to look at the available space in the database. If the database needs expanding, how much memory it's going to take to expand it. Also monitor any blocked processes. If you have some blocked processes, you may want to take a look at them, see what's happening. Might not be an issue now, but it could be an issue in the future. And also watch for any failed jobs or any jobs that are taking an excessive time to complete that usually maybe on a normal hand wouldn't. These can be warning signs that you may be having problems with components of your server. Just a couple things to look at. Alright, so the data collector is about over with. I'm going to go ahead and look at the C drive now. And we're going to look at the perk logs. Open that up. Under the administrator, we have the lab 8. We're going to open that up and see what it looks like. So here it kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of what happened while it was monitoring the resources. Here you have the light green line, which is the actual memory. And this is because during the transfer, I actually put a 500 megabyte file on the desktop, just to generate a little bit of performance. But that green line, that's the memory, and as you can see right here, about right there is where the counter starts. It goes from 100 to takes a cliff dive off to about 0. This is where it starts slowing down on performing the file transfer. As you actually look a little bit farther right here, at about this line it starts going back up. This is because again it is writing more to it. It's using more RAM, I'm sorry, more of the memory. We have the blue line right here, which is also in the memory. But instead of this is the green line's the committed bytes, and that's the bytes that are being used for that job at the moment. The available bytes is the blue line. It shows you right here at the top how much bytes are available. It stays at 100. Scrolling down, we have the red line, which is the bytes received. This is the one I was talking about the denial of service attack. If you have an extremely large a red line that passes over 65 or 70%, may want to look into it. It may not be a big deal now, but once you start receiving 80% and 100% bytes received, that can start becoming a really issue. This completes my lab video for Lab 8 of the INTC 2030. Appreciate you guys for watching.